Casual Magic has been sponsored by Quiver, maker of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine deck holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their website for 10% off your order. You can also support Casual Magic directly by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/ShivamB. And now, on with the show. Welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Quiver and my patrons at patreon.com/ShivamB. And this is one of those episodes where we aren't going to talk about Magic the Gathering, because guess what? It's my show, and I don't care. But, like, there's been this weird transition over the past, year or so, where I've started to shift into doing more interesting cultural conversations with people I find cool, because I've talked to, when you've done 300 plus episodes of a thing, I've talked to everybody interesting or everybody that I was like, holy crap, I want to form a podcast so I can talk to this person. I've done that. I've even had I've had the Mountain Goats on my show. I've had Brandon Sanders. I've had all these random people on my show. And then I'm like, what if I just talk to people I think are cool that don't have anything to do with magic? And it's been really fun. So I was like, guess what? Nobody has stopped listening to me. How about that? But today I am blessed and entirely joyful to have one of my favorite follows from Twitter and Blue Sky of the past decade or so. Tal Lavin, who is, God, I don't know. How do I describe you? You are internet famous, but you're also an incredible writer and journalist who has done an incredible amount of work and research in oh yeah, this is my favorite part of the show where I get to gas up the guest really, really hard.
No,
and they always get a little embarrassed, but then they're like, yeah, well, I guess I am cool. But you've written multiple books about the rise of far-right fundamentalism in America and of just the insanity that we have discovered ourselves in as a society, but also about cool things I find super interesting, like Judaism and sandwiches. And I realize those are not the same, but when I started following you, it was because you were talking about your time in Russia and about because I'm linguistics is my hobby. And I went to Moscow in 1998 and I learned to read Russian in 2 weeks. It was very, very cool. And I could speak enough to be able to get by on the street, which was sick. Because when I was there, you could just stick your hand out and a random dude driving would stop his car and just let you in and then drive you somewhere. It was like Uber, but kind of free and just random. And people were like, yeah, I'm going that direction. Just get in the car. And that's one of the coolest memories I have of being 17 and in Moscow. That's a long story.
There's a very strong hitchhiking culture in Russia and Ukraine, where you're just okay, I'll pay you 20 rubles if you take me to whatever.
Yeah, I was just I need to get to this station. They're great. I'm going that way here. I'm
cool.
Sweet, let's go. That's also where I discovered that the word voda, which means water, and the word vodka are very similar. And when you go into a gift shop and you're thirsty and you ask someone for voda and they give you a small glass of sparkling liquid, it is not water.
Oh, no.
And I was there with my guru and my parents and all this, my religious community had decided to do a pilgrimage to Moscow for some reason. And here I am, having not eaten or drank anything all day because we've been touring around. And now I just got hammered off my first ever drink of pure ass vodka. And I'm this is a weird feeling that I'm not sure is good right now.
So many of my memories my background with Russian is that I was a comparative literature major and started taking Russian the minute I went to college, but I wound up spending 3 summers there and then did a Fulbright grant in Ukraine. This was way back in 2013. So, and I've done some translation work here and there, and I, try to keep up my Russian as best I can, far from the source. But so many of my travel stories there involve just getting wasted.
Swears.
Involve getting extremely wasted and usually singing the way to charm a group of Russians, Ukrainians, all across the former Soviet Union is memorize 1 to 2 ballads, ideally from soppy World War II films. So you have something to sing when everyone has had like crazy high proof Belarusian vodka, and like
Yes.
someone brings out a guitar. Because like if Russians get together, there will be drinking of vodka and guitars, and also just like going to the grocery store and the vegetable aisle was like a produce case, and then there was a vodka aisle of just like all the different kinds of aisle, like all the different like flavors, honey and hot pepper, black pepper,
Yeah.
bison grass, just like infusions.
Every way you can brew a potato, they have figured out.
Yeah, like you can just get schlitzed every day if you want. And it was actually an issue for mostly the male Fulbrighters, because I think there's a lot more masculine pressure to like bond via getting super hammered. Whereas with women, it's just like, I don't know, no one's like being like, out drink me. But my favorite, like I've watched a lot of Soviet movies and whatever, like through classes, through friends, all this stuff. But probably the sort of, in the former Soviet Union, the New Year is sort of where all the Christmas energy goes. And you have New Year's trees, and the Novi God, New Year, is a big deal.
Yeah.
And their most famous film is called Ironia Судьбы. So that's like the irony of fate, or have a nice bath. And the story is that a guy is about to get engaged. His friends take him to the like banya, the communal baths, and they all get so wasted that he passes out, and his friends accidentally confuse him with his other friend and put him on a flight to St. Petersburg from Moscow. He wakes up, he's in St. Petersburg, but because of Soviet central planning in the Gorbachev era, he goes to his exact same address in the same street and winds up breaking in on this lady.
Oh no.
And like falling asleep in her bed because he's so drunk. And she comes in and is like, who's that?
This weirdo in my bed.
Yeah, but they wound up falling in love.
Of course they do.
It's a beautiful Russian love story, you know? It happens to anyone. Anyway, so those are probably my best Russian drunk story, and then we can move on to whatever.
Yeah, sorry. I was just like, this is just how I discovered you, and it was just, and I love stories of foreign places. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know it was great. It was my wild youth of like traveling and getting hammered in various Russian and Ukrainian locales. So one of my summers, I had this job where I was like basically working for a Jewish foundation that was like, they sent me to write reports on like various programs they were funding of like Jewish education throughout the former Soviet Union. A lot of whom were college kids. I was in college at the time. And one of them was this dig in like the Rostov-on-Don area, like really far in the countryside, where allegedly there were archaeological remnants of the Khazar culture. And there's a book called the Kuzari where like supposedly this whole kingdom and culture were converted to Judaism by argumentation, and now neo-Nazis have taken hold of this and been like, all Jews are really Khazars, there's no such thing as Jews, and it's a whole thing. But the point was, so there I am in the Russian countryside doing like an archaeological dig, which is an insane thing for me. And the first night we got there, of course, our initiation ritual was, we all had to do as many shots as we could, and then get smacked in the butt with a shovel to like, really introduce us to being part of this archaeological dig. I blacked out, but I definitely remember being whacked with a shovel and then having to wake up the next day and dig for artifacts.
What the hell? That seems that's a lot, dude. Like getting getting hammered in the Khazar like countries deep in the countryside,
Yeah,
and then whacked with a shovel.
like
That is
right.
such
Or
a
like
stereotype.
I did a river cruise down the Volga as part of another program, and like you could just see there were dead fish just like in our wake of our little shitty boat, our little crappy boat, and you just we're looking back. I'm like, that's a lot of dead fish. Like I'm worried about
Yeah.
people who use this as drinking water. So I don't know. It was great. It was just I like everyone should have a. I'm sad that Russia is so closed off right now, and they're doing a horrible war against like another country I love, Ukraine, and it's just
Yeah,
in general I'm tired of megalomaniacs. Like
I can't
just
imagine. Like, God, I mean, let me tell you, dude, it is it is wild when I'm going back to India to visit, and it's like, oh yeah, the neighborhood's on fire because like the Muslim rioted, or like the Hindus rioted against the thought that some Muslim rioted. And I'm like, oh, for Christ's sake. Or not Christ's sake, for someone else's sake. I don't know. But just, yes, I would like a world without strongmen for a minute. Just give me one
there are
for a
so
couple of days.
many like swinging their dongles around via like mass destruction, and it's awful, and they're all like so old, and I'm like, you can't fight.
One of them has to die. Somebody
just, like, you can like, what happened to ensuring your immortality via like art and culture and like
or drinking lead.
yeah,
you know.
right, whatever it was. Like it's like now our all of our like billionaire megalomaniacs are like, if I can just like encode my consciousness in like a supercomputer, I will live forever. Or like I have to get blood from the youth. I'm like, endow a library, dude.
Yeah, right. Like build a concert hall and put your name on it. It'll be there for 100 years. It'll be fine.
Like fund 100 artists, and you're ensuring like way more
like
immortality.
Think about it. How many kings do we know about now because they had a really cool bard that wrote a very important book that ended up being like history, right? Like
right, or like go nuts, like you know, build the temple of Abu Simbel, but just like stop messing with
right
nuts, right? Like build huge libraries.
I don't know, dude. Like it's funny because like my dad is weird because in America he's a far left like Carter Democrat, and in India he's like a right-wing Hindutva guy. He like fled India because the Indira Gandhi's government wanted to put him in jail, and she was a dictator. It was bad. But the thing is, like, he went back to India, and like they've built this statue to this Hindu fundamentalist who helped build India called Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. It's the tallest statue in the world, and they built it in the middle of nowhere. And this is just giant. It's like almost like 400 feet tall of this dude just wearing like, and it's not even an attractive statue. It is a statue of a dude wearing a normal like vest and pants and just kind of staring out in the distance. I'm like, and he's an old balding guy. And I'm like, what? Look, I'm not going to say he wasn't a very important person. He certainly was. But like, bro, when we're making epic mega statues of things, at least make them look good.
I will say I have seen precisely one cool, or like two, but the coolest mega statue I've ever seen. This is another Russia story, but this was like like one of the trips I was on. I went to Volgograd, aka former Stalingrad, and they have a statue there called the Rodina Mat, the motherland mother, and this was obviously the site of the Battle of Stalingrad. It's a huge memorial complex to the 3 million people who died in that insanely long World War II battle. And they have this 100-foot bare-breasted woman holding a sword aloft and screaming. And you can see it from all over the city. The memorial complex is called Mamayev Kurgan, and it's like, I have to say, having seen that, you stand up and you're like you as a person, if you're like between 5 and 6 feet tall, you're like maybe the height of like one of her toes.
That's
and
crazy.
She's huge and screaming. And like, I'm like, yes,
I can relate.
That's appropriate energy, I feel.
Yeah. I just linked you. They call it the Statue of Unity. It's literally 790 feet tall, and it's this dumpy looking statue of this dude. And it's
Yeah, that's not.
like, what? Why would you do that?
I enjoy how foldy the fabric looks.
Oh yeah,
though.
no, it's like they got all his loose pants, and it's hard to do that in, like, 800-foot tall stone or whatever. But it's also like, what? Really? This is the Statue of Unity?
I'm sending you
Yeah.
the Rodina Mать Zaviot, the motherland calls, and it's.
Oh,
I mean,
that's a cool statue.
big screaming lady.
Dude, I mean, swords. Ladies with swords. I'm a
and
fan.
you can see her nipple. It's and like it's subtle, I guess, but like it's also how subtle can a nipple be made out of stone
That's
in a statue that big?
yeah. But I mean,
It's
it's also like
279 feet
cool.
tall. Yeah,
Wow,
no,
that
I
is
mean,
cool.
I would describe this as cool as hell, and just like seeing it in person was
Yeah.
cool as
Like,
heck.
I've seen a lot of really tall statues in Japan and stuff, but like sometimes I'm like, man, you know what? If I was going to build a gigantic statue and call it the Statue of Unity, make it the tallest statue in the world, maybe I would choose a different subject than an old man.
Right.
But that's okay.
Yeah, no, and especially if like the figure that your Statue of Unity is representing is like much more.
Yeah, maybe he's less
important to
unifying
one.
than you think he would be. But anyways, that's fine. That's fine though. The other thing, like, we've gotten far afield. I apologize, but I don't, because this is kind of the sort of thing I wanted to talk to you about anyways.
Yeah,
Because, like,
just shoot
look,
in the
dude,
breeze.
yeah, I mean, this show's a conversation. It's not about like just interview. People are like, I need a list of your questions. I'm like, I don't have questions. Like, I'm just here to talk, and you're just here to talk back. The problem is sometimes you get into people who are just like dead, and I'm like, oh bro, I need you to give me something to work with. But that's okay, because like I don't want to spend too much time talking about white supremacy and Nazis and things like that, because I know you've spent so much time writing about it, but it is not a fun topic, especially as I don't know if you've looked at me in the last 10 seconds, but I'm a brown man who lives in America, and I lived through 9/11, and I remember what it's like to be targeted by people, and continually. And then when I was most recently in Minnesota for a magic event, and I got stopped by ICE at the airport, and who were demanding demanding my passport on the way home, and I was like, well, that's the last thing I'm ever doing, I guess. Bye.
Oh, that's terrifying.
It was not my favorite moment in my life, let me tell you. Which is why I was like, I would rather talk to you about sandwiches.
Well, no, I mean, it's been an interesting time because I wrote about, well, first of all,
Yeah.
like the sort of consolidation of all these evil forces into a government, like, isn't super fun for me as a trans Jew.
Yeah, I can't imagine
either. But it's interesting. It's like, 10 years ago at this point, like I've been writing about this stuff for 10 years. And so 6 years ago, I released my first book, which is about neo-Nazis on the internet. It's called Cultural Warlords. And it was kind of like, I did a lot of like undercover stuff where I was hanging out in like neo-Nazi Telegram chats, and
oh god,
like I joined an incel message board, and I had to like write like a whole like letter being like, let me in, this is why. And I created all these different identities. I went undercover on like an all-white dating site.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I catfished on an all-white dating site that was so short of women. They were like, here's a flyer you should print out and just hand to white women. And it was like, it said, our survival is as important as the survival of the Siberian tiger. Join us on whitedate.net. Once I saw that, I was like, I have to catfish here. It's my duty as a person to catfish. So I was like a sexy Iowan babe.
Oh god.
That was and I wound up working with Bellingcat to like expose this guy who translated a bunch of mass shooter manifestos into Ukrainian and Russian and like
Jeez.
was distributing them. So that was the high point. But mostly it was just like here's what's happening. And then my second book was about far right Christianity and different flavors of sort of, first of all, how they've spent the last 50 years building power and why, and then like kind of the more out there beliefs. And then it's been this process of seeing all this stuff that I was first seeing on like radical, like neo-Nazi hidden Telegram chats
Right.
and like these like circulars for homeschool parents and like parenting manuals deep in the evangelical like hinterland.
Yeah.
And then just watching it become government policy. Like everything that I saw at the very edges like has come center stage. And you feel a little like Cassandra. Like
I was just gonna say, like you're just screaming, or like just screaming the boy cried. Not even the boy. Yeah, Cassandra's the exact story of just like, hey, I'm giving you the warning and nobody's listening. Hello, hello, hello.
Like, can anybody hear me? I mean, I wasn't like cursed by a god or dragged by my hair through the streets, but
I mean, who knows? But like it's weird because I was a games journalist for a long time. I'm friends with people like Zoe Quinn and Jen Frank and other people. I wrote essays in 2014 that got police to become very familiar with my address. And I remember like it's wild to me to see all these like scrub teens from 4chan and like that I used to like interact with because they would be hate bombing me on Twitter or whatever, suddenly in the halls of government. Right. And it's just like,
it's like
what?
every single like Senate page Republican is like someone who like knows what all of this like filthy stuff like comes from the sewer, these sewers. And they were really sewers that I was trawling for like it was like, do you know the term like a tosher? That's like a British term for like this old like profession of people who would just like go through the sewers and find like coins and rings and watches and stuff.
Yes, I'm familiar with the concept.
Yeah. And I feel like I was like a tosher where I would like go into the sewers and be like, this is what's important, this is what's coming, this is what's happening. And now I'm watching like I've gone from like sneaking into incel message boards under assumed identity to like watching like mogging and maxing and all that stuff.
Yeah, watching the Intel message board be the vice president of America.
Right. Also
Magic player JD Vance.
Gen Z slang. And I'm like, I know where this comes from because I was like, what websites did Elliot Rodger frequent? And like now I'm like, the slang I learned there is like can't you just co-opt AAVE like all prior generations of US teens?
I mean, I feel like they're doing that too.
That's problematic for different ways, but at least they're not like
they're not trying to burn the house down at the same time.
Yeah, they don't like shoot women for like
seriously.
Like these like terms white like are from a culture that like adulate people for shooting up a yoga class. Like it's bizarre. I just and then so basically sometime around January I had this moment of like kind of, I guess it was a breakdown. It was like I had written this whole book and spent years researching some pretty intense stuff like corporal punishment in Christian culture and like the plans to take over the world and apocalyptic prophecy and especially
millennialism. What did they call it? There's a word for it.
Premillenarian dispensation.
That's it. Premillenarianism.
But the biggest research was on corporal punishment. I talked to over 100 people who had experiences with very abusive childhoods and wrote about that. So it was like a tough book to write.
It's a hard book to read because you're just reading about kids getting beaten over and over again. And it's like, it's weird because like I come from a culture where there's like a history of corporal punishment as well, but it's like not the kind of like slapping someone on the ass with your hand is bad. like real talk, it's bad, but it's not like these people who are like cutting switches or belts or other just literal tools of torture. And I'm like, you're killing your children.
I mean, yeah, I think for me, like potching is the Yiddish word for like a smack or
Yeah.
whatever. It's not good. Don't hate your kids.
No,
Is
don't
my
hate your kids,
general
but like,
message. But like the sort of like systematized
oh yeah,
religious, like because God says like you can't spare the rod or your child will die. Like, and these like guides to how to beat your kids that I read, it was like, ugh. So then watching the Voltron of like all these people I'd been writing about for a decade, like win and in some ways get all their goals. Like while I was like sort of figuring out my gender and transitioning and all this stuff, I was just like, I can't actually do this anymore. And so book 3 is about sandwiches. I'm just like,
you need, like, you cannot swim in these waters without drinking some of it, right? Like if you're swimming in the sewage, you're going to get some of it in your mouth eventually, and it's going to be gross and it's going to ruin your life, and then you have to breathe and you have to take a minute. Like,
yeah,
I
right.
mean,
Like you're a tosher. You might drown in sewage. You might get cholera. It's like you need to. I think I had the mental equivalent of cholera, and I like was just I couldn't even like write for a while, and then I've just been a strictly sandwich related historian and journalist. It turns out I can get completely neurotic about sandwiches as well, but like at least it's not like prima facie something that makes me want to jump off a building. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But it's just like, cause like, look, my two worlds, right? Like in one life, I'm a content creator who talks about a card game. In my other life, I am a progressive Hindu priest who deals with crazy right wingers and builds a network with other religious people. And I talk to a lot of people who need help and who want to, escape out of bad situations. And it is very difficult to take all of this unto yourself without losing your sense of self and your sense of like innate safety and just like peace of mind, which is why I've got like this podcast helps me a lot, just simply because it lets me do something else and talk about
like
something else, because like this is otherwise, like I learned this during Gamergate, which was that like if you just like, my wife came to me one day and she's like, you need to, whatever it is you're doing, you need to stop, because you're just like gritting your teeth and frowning every day, even when your phone is down. So maybe put the phone down and stop responding to these people. And I was like, holy crap, this is like molded the way I behave in real life. And I can't.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you can't like the gaze into the abyss, blah blah blah. But also, it's so stressful and like
it's just waves of filth over and over again.
And like also, it's so directed at you. Like even when it's not literally directed at you, like I want to kill you. It's like you're reading about people who like want you to be dead. So
ironically, in Magic the Gathering, my escape from all of this in 2020, there's this format called Commander, which is the most popular way to play. And there was a group of people who were brought on from the community to help manage this format, which is played by millions and millions of people. I was one of them because I'm a loved content creator and people know who I was and I had good things to say about the format, whatever. Also, I'm brown. So it was like, cool, I can diversify the format, like leadership a bit and stuff. But because I'm an open guy who posts online and has all my like DMs and everything open, people get mad at Wizards of the Coast who makes the cards. They can't yell at them because the corporation doesn't care. They get mad at the rules committee for not banning these cards, but the rules committee is a bunch of like tough white guys. They don't care, and they're also not online. They go down. All the rest of the people on this committee of content creators locks all their stuff down so nobody gets it. So there's a loudmouth brown guy. Let's just go. And so it was literally like the weeks before the first Trump election in 2020, when we're in the middle of pandemic, no, the Biden election, I guess 2020, we're in the middle of pandemic, everything is going wrong. And it's just like, people have to vent at something. And they've got all of these uncontrolled urges in their life right now. And somebody printed a Walking Dead card and they're like, no Walking Dead in my Magic. And they just unleashed. And I got like death threats. I got like, I know where your kid goes to school. I know where your house is. All of these just like horrific things. I'm like, I know what you look like. So let's calm down. I know exactly who you are. You are not going to do anything to me. So let's chill. But like, it got to the point that there was like security guards when I go to events who would just be surreptitiously walking around me just to make sure nobody tries anything. But like when your escape becomes just the sewage tunnel pointing at your face, it's a rough one.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, I guess like no one's issued a death threat about the sandwich stuff yet. I guess people do have strong opinions, but tend to keep it reasonably civil, if annoying, sometimes. But like, so I have one funny story about
Yes.
the about like being targeted. I mean, most of it was just objectively horrible, but like after Culture Warlords came out, and I was like, basically, it was me like giving the double bird to white supremacists and being like, screw you, like I'm a, fat Jew who hates white supremacists, and here's how I like fooled you and made you look bad for like years. And so I got, like a couple of FBI agents showed up to be like, hey, you have a lot of rape and death threats against you. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I knew that. But they kind of gave me their number, whatever. And I was at my parents, like, so my parents got doxxed, which was awful, by the guy who organized Unite the Right.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
Like literally, we're talking about that level of like bananas. And I'm like, all I did was write a book. Okay. But so like my parents, I'm at my parents' house. They're not there. They get this brown paper wrapped package with like a return address, a name I don't recognize, and a return address in like I think it was Idaho, right? And I called them and I was like, what is this package? And they're like, we don't know. We don't know what that is. And I was like, oh my God, someone sent my parents
something.
So I call my FBI like liaison. I'm like freaking out. This agent is very nice and was like, well, we can talk to the postal police. That's a whole and finally my boyfriend was like, I'm gonna open it. And I was like, are you sure? And I hid behind the door and he opened it in the hallway.
Hid behind the door.
Ultimate coward move on my part. I was like, fine, you can take the shrapnel for me. And it turned out my parents won an auction for silverware on eBay and forgot that they'd won it. And that's how I called the FBI about spoons. So I was like, oh my God. I'm like forever the girl who the whatever, the person who cried, the boy who cried spoon.
Spoons.
Like,
yeah, well, you know what? Better that than any literal other of the million things. Oh my God, spoons! I hope they're nice spoons at least.
They're like really, they're nice. You can't put them through the dishwasher because they're so antique.
They're silver.
Yeah, like I don't even know, but I was like, oh my God, I was just like that moment of just crisis averted, but also humiliation forever. And I was like, okay.
Look, it's tense, right? Like, and it's weird. People are like, in this atmosphere we live in, people do weird things. And
also living in that state of like heightened paranoia and awareness of threat can really mess with you. And especially if you do that for years at a time, which I'm realizing in retrospect was like what I did and how I was living.
You can't live like that.
Yeah, it really, at a certain point for me, it was, I'm not saying that I won't ever write about politics again, but I'm at a point where I'm just like, I need to like be more detached. And so I spent the last like 4 weeks getting increasingly intense about like discovering the history of mayonnaise. That's what the contentious history of mayonnaise. I got really into it.
I love it. I was very eager to read the fruits of your research because, unlike a lot of people, I love mayo. I think it tastes great, and so like it was weird because like as a kid, I grew up and my parents had a moment where they're like, "We're so orthodox, we're not going to eat eggs anymore," and that means no mayonnaise because like my community got turbo vegetarian for a minute and they went and looked up all the food and they're like, "We can't eat Jello and mayo anymore," and I'm like, "No, my Jello pudding. What am I going to do?" But like. Mayo is one of those things I found very hard to give up because I like the tangy flavor of vinegar and egg mixed together. I think mayo gets a very bad rap because not because the condiment is bad, but because people did horrific food crimes with mayonnaise for 30
And
years in this
Jello,
country. Dude,
and Jello,
and
by the way.
Jello. Like, look, it's fruit flavored aspic. You don't need to put mayo and pickles on it. Like, let's calm down.
Yeah, don't put shrimp in that. Don't
Like,
put
what are we
tuna in
doing?
that.
Why?
You
How does
control
this
yourself.
happen?
Well, yeah, I mean, I also am a mayo fan, and I think mostly it's just like I don't like. I guess people might have a textural aversion, but like taste wise, I don't see how
I
it
think
can
it's
be
just
so offensive.
ubiquity and like people like it's like everyone's like, oh, vanilla is such a boring, like mundane flavor. I'm like, vanilla is incredibly complicated and very tasty. Stop
It's
talking.
from like an orchid,
Yeah,
right?
it's from an orchid. You have to go to Madagascar to get it. It's hard, man. This is
Yeah,
amazing.
I know. It's funny that what becomes the symbol of like boringness is
Yeah.
actually like a bean from a exotic orchid. But the like in terms of like the mayo. Oh, like I just was gonna say I grew up keeping kosher. Like I grew up
Mm.
an Orthodox Jew, so I understand the like uh oh, my community like just discovered something and we're
And
like
suddenly we can't eat it anymore. It's like,
yeah,
no.
like there was like a moment of like I remember growing up where like communities like a little bit further to the right than mine
Mm.
um like started debating whether like eating like the microbes in water to like was like eating insects, and then there was a trend for like ultra filtered water, and I was just like
Yeah.
my community was a little to the left of that where we're like, okay, there's microbes in water,
Well, it's like
it's
the Jains would walk around and they would have masks over their face and they would have little brushes that they would brush in front of them to make sure they're not stepping on any microbes. The mask is to keep them from breathing any microbes in. And then I'm like, look, I understand and appreciate nonviolence, but there's a point where you're like that microbe wants to die. Like,
I'm like, there's microbe on microbe crime all the time.
yeah, like what are you gonna
Address
do, man?
that, I don't know. I think everyone has their ideals that they're living up to. One thing that I sort of liked about orthodoxy, and I left it for a lot of different reasons.
Mm,
Mostly, like when I was a woman for most of my life, I didn't enjoy being like explicitly a second class citizen in my community of origin. Now I'm
yes.
like queer and trans, and that's a whole other
Yeah.
bag of
I mean, to be fair though,
whatever.
I feel like I know more trans Jewish people than I know normal Jew or cis Jewish people. Just, I guess it's just the communities I run in, and also the fact that Blue Sky is like the trannest place on the planet.
Blue Sky, Magic the Gathering.
Yeah,
Like
like,
I think if I had the patience for like getting really into an extremely complicated and expensive hobby, it would be Magic, just so I could meet beautiful trans women. Because I feel like there's so many beautiful
okay.
trans women.
When I went to the con in Minnesota that I got iced at, and at that show, it was called Shoebox, and it was something like it was like 50 to 60% trans ladies by volume of just like trans Magic players just getting together and tranning all over the place and stuff. It was great. It was super awesome to just see such a collection of people so excited to find each other and build a community and be able to like share their love of cards and stuff with each other, but also realize that the joy of community is knowing that you're not alone and that there's other people out there with you, and that you've got this whole like people who've been there before. And like you'd see all these kids who are like brand new to their gender identity, and they'd be sitting down at a table playing these formats, and they'd be sitting with a bunch of people who've been out and about for a while. And it's like, guess what, dude, it's not as bad as it looks. I mean, it is bad, but there's enough of us and we will find each other and it'll be great. And it's just uplifting. Like, I think Magic does
Yeah.
a lot of things wrong, but helping like marginalized people find community is one of the strengths of it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, my partner was a very intense Magic player for a long time in medical school. It was his way of like letting off steam.
Mm,
And for a while, he like, so he met, like, he was playing Magic in the Bronx in like a comic shop there, and like he met like all these people from different walks of life, people who were like CEOs at Rikers, people who were
yeah.
like whatever, people from all different communities, and he met this like kid who was 18 who like his grandfather kicked him out and he didn't have a mom and whatever. So my boyfriend wound up just like basically adopting this kid for like
That's
a couple of
awesome.
months and like letting him sleep in his place, and then like finding him a youth shelter and like helping him get his GED, and like showed up for his graduation. Like
That's
that's
amazing.
through like the magic of magic. So I, and like for me, it's just like I have tried. He tried to teach me. It kind of is
It's
a
a
little.
lot.
It's I mean, I feel like yes, if I can play Slay the Spire, I can play Magic. It's just I think I'd have to be that guy that shows up with like printed out little like facsimile cards because I'm broke as a joke and like I can't afford.
You know what? The tradition of proxying in trans community is very, very strong and thriving. People
Yeah.
don't mind at all. It's fine. We get it. This stuff's expensive.
But like I don't know what the trans mask equivalent of like magic. Like
Yeah,
trans
that's a
mask
question I've always
equivalent.
wondered because, like, I know like a billion trans femme people. I know like one or two trans mask like Magic players.
I think
There's something about socialization that just is different, I guess.
yeah, I mean, I don't know what the trans like I'm in a couple of trans mask like Discord chat. I guess we're all on Discord. The stereotype that all trans people have Discord accounts is going strong.
True as it's as true
Like,
as you can get. Yes.
but it's great just to talk to other people who've like
Yeah.
who are on this particular journey of like, oh my God, like I'm in my 20s or 30s and like suddenly undergoing male puberty, which is a whole trip and a half.
It did not feel great the first time, let me tell you.
I'm like angry and horny and my voice keeps cracking. Like every time I try to sing, it sounds like there's a song in like that old movie Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Like, puberty love is literally the track, and it explodes the tomatoes. It's
Yeah.
there. But that's what it sounds like when I sing. Like I was at the Passover Seder, and there's a lot of singing, and I just literally like my voice would not stop cracking. It was terrible. Like so, I'm doing that, and also like growing hair and like muscles, and I'm like, what's happening? But I can talk to other people who've gone through this, and it's been a lifeline. But I'm trying to think. I guess there's a lot of like knitting and crafting and reading. People
Really?
play Halo. It's very wholesome.
I know, like all the trans mask dudes I know are just like super into bodybuilding and being like, hell yeah, bare chested, let's go. And I'm like,
yeah, like I did get into my barbells.
Yeah.
I went from sword girl to sword guy, so that's a change.
Dude, as a fellow sword dude, I welcome you to the brotherhood.
I kept Swords Jew as my Blue Sky handle because that's gender neutral. But like, yeah, no, it is like you want to consciously cultivate the muscle because you can suddenly build it. Like your body is different. So I guess that's one thing. But like, I don't know. I feel like if you got us all together, we just I don't even know what it would be. I don't think it's
I've genuinely I feel like there's so much discourse and discussion and like visibility for trans femme people and so little in comparison for trans mask. And there's this like I don't want to like make any assumptions or judgments or anything, but it's just like it's weird. Like you would think the right wingers would be super mad about people transitioning from like trying to invade the male dominant space and being like, you're climbing above your status, instead of being so angry of people going the other way around. But it's like it's funny whenever you see all those things like, oh, you need to use a bathroom of your gender, and then some heavily bearded guy with giant muscles like, you really want me to go into the bathroom with your wife? And they're like, right, you were also here.
Right. I mean, like not every, I guess I'm still at the beginning of my transition. I'm like 6 months into taking tea, but like, so I mostly just look like a lesbian, but like, I think it is, I have my own theories about that. I can float my theory about that. So in general, and I like realized Wild Faith, my my book about Christianity like got very trans at one point, where I was like talking about policing of gender, and like I think in general the idea that like everyone should stay like the gender of their birth. Gender is very essentialist. It defines you. Women are this and men are that, and men are in charge of women. Like this is all supposed to be very ironclad. It's sort of Procrustean bed. But the reason why, to me, like trans women are so heavily policed, are so hypervisible, is because in the hierarchy imagined by the sort of the Christian right, certainly, but also I would say broadly like a patriarchal society, especially one that's quite right wing, men are dominant, men are on top, men are sort of socially superior, economically superior, and are meant to lead. So when someone is a trans woman, when someone voluntarily gives up the advantages, the purported advantages of masculinity,
right,
voluntarily sort of reneges on that category, it trips this, why would you do that? Why would you assume femininity? Why would you assume this inferior identity? That's unnatural, and it also threatens masculinity as the absolute superior in a way that, women who like become men doesn't necessarily. It's sort of like, I mean, in my experience, trans masks get dismissed and sort of viewed as like slightly deluded girls. The thing that gets people most upset is top surgery. Like you're cutting off your beautiful breasts.
Like, what am I going to do now? You've taken away my joy of your body.
Like, right. Like the most sort of fulminating rhetoric I've seen against trans mask people is like they're cutting off the beautiful breasts of teenage girls. I'm like, you're the one saying like the beautiful breasts of teenage girls.
Yeah,
right?
I'm like,
so that's your. So the issue is like making like female bodies less sexually available or appealing, right? But there isn't the sort of category scrambling of like, why would you like purposefully take yourself off this pedestal and like go into the muck with the subhumans? Like it sort of scrambles brains and creates this anger that I think just, whereas like if you are someone who is like assigned female at birth and you're like, I want to join the like vaunted category, I want to join the social superior category,
like that's weird.
It doesn't mess with their brains as much. Although for like me, it's not, I'm not trans mask because I view women as inferior. I want to make that clear.
Like nobody chooses that. I mean, maybe there are people out there who choose that, but that's a level of derangement that it's like, I don't think you can ascribe that to a group. Like, I feel like you're just like off on your own somewhere deep in weird land. Like,
I mean, just for me, I like realized a lot of like, it wasn't something that I didn't grow up like knowing I was trans. Like, I think there's a very unitary media friendly narrative that like,
I've always known.
Yeah, I've always known that since birth. And I think a lot of people do, and that's great. Especially I think for trans men, it's often a little more complicated than that. And for me, like I grew up in this super religious environment. Like, I grew up in the 90s. Like transness was not.
It's not a thing.
I don't know how I would have known that I would have like wanted a bar mitzvah instead of a bat mitzvah. Like I don't know how I would have known that. I was like, I was bi, and for me it felt very important to like say I was queer. I always felt different. I was a strident feminist and like mad about explicitly being like unable to lead prayer services and stuck behind a wall in like a little box in the synagogue and all that stuff. And it was only much later where I was like, oh, okay, like there are reasons why I have always felt like I'm very masculine. There are reasons why I've never really felt girly or natural when I try to be girly. And then it took me like almost a decade of like knowing I was a trans man and being in the closet, and like finally it was actually because things have gotten so bad with trans stuff under
Hmm.
this administration that I was like, I have to do this before it becomes illegal. I have to at least try.
I mean, right? Like, what is the worst that can happen, right? Like, there's a point in your life you hit where you, and I've known people who transition at every age group. I mean, I live in the Bay Area, so this is not an unusual occurrence for me. But it's also just like, we're in a situation where this literally is one of those, just like, if you don't do it now, you are never going to do it. And at the worst that happens is you have a bad haircut for a couple of years and then you go back. Otherwise, you find yourself and you become a better person. You become a more whole person. And that's so much more important in this era where everything around us, the entire atmosphere is dedicated to making us feel bad and to be,
Right.
and the world is bad. At least this
I would
core
say,
can be happy.
I mean, first of all, don't call my haircut bad. This is a great
I'm
haircut.
not.
It's from a gay hair salon. But no, I like, there are,
I mean, the part where you
physical
grow it back
changes.
out again, dude. My hair
Yeah.
looked like garbage for like 4 years, and now it looks cool. So
No, it's total silver fox. But I just like, there are certain physical changes that won't revert, like facial hair and my deep scratchy voice, and like
speaking of which,
some
you're
other
aiming
stuff.
upwards. Aim back at the microphone.
Oh, sorry. And my
You don't
big
need to come
scratchy
too close,
voice.
but it's fine. Just
Yeah, there are certain changes that won't revert, but like the fact that every single one of them is one that I embrace has just been like, yeah, this is the right move. Like,
yeah.
I cannot wait until my little struggle stash, like my like 14-year-old, like my first mustache, like becomes thick and luxuriant,
As a thick and luxuriant myself, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I know. I'm going for it. But it's definitely this has been my year of like, stop writing about politics and simply be a trans Jew in America in 2020.
Yeah, that's two categories that are really great to be right now.
I mean, I just feel like I'm like living through it in some senses, and
Just like, you
it's
might as
something I
well.
want to reflect on, but I think it's like, maybe this is something I need to like remember in tranquility, as opposed to trying to
Yeah.
keep up with like every nuance of what's happening.
I mean, look, this is one of those things that I end up struggling with a lot because of, like, look, I'm a brown dude in an interracial relationship. I have a child. I am a priest of a religion that is not respected by anybody outside of my country. It's like there's a whole like set of categories that I am definitely on the wrong side of when it comes to being an American, in the sense of like, people don't consider me American. I was born here. My whole life I've lived here, except when I lived in Japan, of all places. And there they thought I was an Indian guy, which was also weird. Because then they're like, dude, when Japanese people are racist, they're not racist like Americans are. They're like, oh, our scissors can't cut your hair. It's too thick. And I'm like, your scissors can't cut my hair.
Okay.
Okay, great. Do you not have, this is Japan, you have swords, you can cut my hair. Anyways, but like,
You gotta go to like a sushi restaurant and be like, cut my hair. I know you've got the knives for it.
Oh, dude, yeah, seriously, like, don't. I'll Miyamoto Musashi myself. It's fine. But like, having to deal with that, and then you have to make a decision at some point in your life. It's like, look, am I just going to sit and hide and wait until this tide's over? Or are you just going to be like, look, I am who I am, and I'm going to be as open and bold about it. This world is not friendly to me, but it wasn't friendly to me yesterday, and it's not going to be friendly to me after you leave either. So, like, for the first time in my life, it's like I understand the Black American experience, of the sense of being like, yeah, dog, this country doesn't like us. We're not going to stop living just because of that. And once I embraced that, then I was like, okay, yeah, everything sucks, but I don't have to allow myself to be dragged down, and my life became happier. It's suddenly like,
it's a complicated, I mean, it's a complicated
challenge.
moment.
It's a challenge. It sucks.
I think it's that thing where you like, the people who are stepping up are amazing, and like, you have to tap out when you
you have
like,
to take the breaks,
because me having like a third nervous breakdown or whatever is like not,
it's not good for you or anybody.
yeah. But I, so like I'm tapping out and like I'm writing about
Sandwiches.
sandwiches. I mean, so right now the one I'm writing about like a turkey sandwich, a classic.
Hmm.
Because I'm doing so like my book and also this project I've been doing for at this point 4 years, which is insane. I've like 140 100 and like 45 essays or so I've written about sandwiches
Yeah,
from
they've got a sorry about that. I apologize. Uh,
it's
yeah, you guys should look up the Sword and the Sandwich, which is the newsletter that Tal does, which is fantastic. It's like just these deep, like sandwiches are my favorite food, and so reading like deep, and I'm a vegetarian foodie, which is a weird contradiction, but I
not
love
at all, not at
reading
all.
about sandwiches, and it's so good. And I love the every episode is an exploration of a different sandwich in history, and it's so good. It's so much like your writing makes me so happy. Like real
Well, I
talk, your
just
writing makes me happy.
oh, thank you. I appreciate it. What's fun is that like my thesis, and I think this is an old thesis, but it's like nothing is banal except we make it so. And so you would think like a sandwich is like the most banal object possible, but it's like I've wound up like writing about like if you write about the banh mi, you're writing about like French Indochina and
Yeah.
like Vietnamese refugees to the U.S. If you are writing about like I like wound up studying like the history of like humans cultivating pigs because there were just so many darn sandwiches involving ham. Like,
Yeah.
uh, so
Or
with
about like, when you did the study of the adulterated foods in
yeah,
America, right? Like
yes, yeah, that was like a tangential. Yes,
the
that was
poison
great.
squad and all that.
Yeah, like the history of sort of 19th century food adulteration and like how you'd basically get like pepper that was literally just dust or like
Sawdust ground up, right? Like
yeah, like and that's like fine as opposed to like let's put like aspirin in
and
jam because it'll
arsenic.
keep it right arsenic in our candy. But um so Turkey has been fun just as like an off example as an example because so in Turkish the name for the turkey is dind
Hmm.
from India, right?
Yeah.
Like in Hebrew it's ofhodu, like chicken of India, induk
Yeah.
in Russian. And so and then like they're different like the Dutch name is like Calcutta bird.
Yeah.
The the name in Albanian means like chicken from overseas. So I was like, why? And then like why is it attributed to India? It's actually from North America. Turns out there was like a whole complicated confusion involving the Portuguese trading
Always
with the
those
Ottoman
guys.
Empire, guinea fowl from Africa. They had the same name in Latin, and that's how the turkey got called turkey and has like a name as bird from India, like all across Europe, but actually it's from North America. And you can tell also because there's like so many different terms for the turkey in Spanish, which is where
Yeah.
the turkey actually has its native habitat. And they're like, this is from an indigenous word that like imitates the mating call of the turkey, or like this is the Nahuatl word, like
Yeah.
guajolota, and you're like, okay, this is where turkey is actually from. But it was like a mystery. It involves like mistaken identity of two different birds. The Portuguese are always involved when there's a
Yeah.
like some sort
Well,
of
it's like it reminds me of the word sugar and the concept of sugar, right? Being like taken from the Sanskrit word for sakara, which is like means sweetness, and that's a word that's spread everywhere. But in India, the Hindi word for sugar is chini because the refined sugar that the Indian diplomats took to Tang China and the Tang Chinese brought back instead of brown sugar, but the powdered white stuff that they had actually like refined and crystallized, and that became the Hindi word. So everywhere in the world, it's a Sanskrit word except in India where it's China, and it's just like that's the sort of thing I love because it's so weird and so like
right. So you can't write about food without writing about language, without writing about like culture,
culture and
and also
history.
and also like a lot of it winds up being this like meta stuff where you're like wading through like competing myths about like where does this come from, and like there's so much BS in culinary history because you can just say like my restaurant invented this sandwich and then, like no one's gonna sue you like or whatever. It's not true. Like I like debunked kind of this one guy claimed to have invented the Reuben sandwich, and it turns out he was like deeply involved with the Jewish mafia in the 1940s.
That was such a good article. Oh my God, I love that one.
And he claimed to have invented New York style cheesecake, and I was like, get out of here. Absolutely not. No. But like for this mayo one, I really went bananas, and I was like reading, I'm like, it's like 3 a.m. I'm sitting there reading like Pliny the Elder's Historia Naturalis to find like the part where he talks about aioli. He's like, if you beat Cyprian garlic with oil, it creates a foam of surprising size. I'm reading like French court memoirs. I'm like reading like a cookbook that was published last year in Catalan, and I'm like, am I diving too deep into mayo? Or like
a little bit, but it's also amazing. I mean, dude, freaking Escoffier called mayo one of the like 6 mother sauces, right? Like, or like creme. And like, that's like one of the true like core, like people forget that mayonnaise is like one of the real fundamental French sauces, but is it French?
And so I came to the ultimate conclusion, and it should be out this week. The ultimate conclusion is that the French stole it from Spain.
Why does it not surprise me in the slightest?
I mean, at the end of the day, like it's kind of weird that like beating an egg yolk with olive oil is like, you know, and maybe a little bit of vinegar is has such a specific historical point where it comes up. You'd think it would be older, but like it doesn't really surface before like Spain in the 1740s, and you're like, okay. And then like pretty straightforwardly, the French took it during the 7 Years' War, and it became mass adopted in the 19th century. But you know, it's one of those sort of like, you can't really pinpoint it, but then like literally a book came out last year only in Catalan that was like, here we are, this is like older than any French source, and here's a recipe for mayo. It's called raw fish sauce, but it is mayo.
Well, I mean, there is nobody more stuffy about food origins than the Spanish, especially the Catalan and the Basque, who were very proud of anything that possibly could have come from here. And God forbid anybody else take credit for whatever we did.
I will say that Basque, like tapas, pinchos, I think they're called, are so good.
So good.
My God. I had like one of the cooler experiences I've ever had as an author. So Culture Warlords got translated into Spanish, and this lovely organization of like anti-fascists invited me to come speak in Barcelona and paid my fare, and that was really cool. I gave a speech in Spanish, which I don't speak, but I like got my translator of the book to translate it for me. I practiced, probably looked like an idiot, but I was trying. What was interesting to me though was like, so I like all of these reporters, there were some reporters who came and talked to me because I was an author, and they were like, isn't it crazy how much anti-Semitism there is in the US? And I was like, there isn't as much anti-Semitism in Spain because you kicked all your Jews out. like, remember when you expelled all your Jews? Like there's like the highest point in Barcelona is literally called like Montjuic. It's like Jew Mountain, and it's because the fortress on the top was like literally built with stones from the Jewish graveyard.
Oh, geez.
Like after the expulsion of the Jews. So I'm like, you don't get to talk to me about that. So I kind of stood up in this like speech that was weirdly in like a former Greyhound arena, and I was like, you talk to me about like anti-Semitism being so removed from you, but like here you are in the country where like people hang up a ham to show that they're not like Muslim or Jewish, like, and we still have hams hanging all over the like city. So, you know, don't imagine that like that this is not yours either. And I was very like, I don't know, it was quite a moment.
Emphatic.
Yeah, I was like, but it's just like to me, and so the essay about like Spanish ham sandwiches is like specifically about. The point is, yes, I'm not writing directly about politics, but like writing about it
Everything
through
is
the
political, though. Everything is political, right? Like that's just
yeah,
the
and
world it is. I mean,
yeah, and sometimes it's delightful, and
yeah.
like I don't think the French and the Spanish are like going to go to war over mayo anytime soon. And sometimes it's a fun puzzle, but like there is no such thing as like a one-dimensional object that has no history and has no place in time or language. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we run into that with magic all the time. I mean, right now, the current set that just came out is about a magical school full of teenagers who cast spells, and everybody was like, "Uh-oh, the greatest turf in the world, we're going to summon her." And then it turns out the novelization of this set involves like a bunch of ladies and a trans dude in the magical school, and like with explicit, let's say, romantic interludes between the two of these students. And it's like, well, that is definitely not a Harry Potter story. That is for damn sure. Like, I guess Magic knows who its audience is, and yeah, like everything is political. You can't get away from it. But but I do want to ask you one question. You live in New York, and there's a sandwich that I read about in Bon Appetit like a decade ago, and it is one of the coolest things I've ever read about, and I'm desperate to try it someday. Have you ever had an artichoke parmesan sandwich?
Uh like wow, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, it's like an eggplant parmesan, but it's made with artichokes. And it's this place
That
called
sounds
Mama
so good.
Luisa's Hero Shop in Brooklyn. And like I need you to go and study this sandwich because it's amazing.
I'll report back.
Yeah.
I will. I'll do that.
Because like artichoke parmesan sounds so good. Like it's
my fantasy travel sandwich, and then
yes.
I'll let you go because this went long. Because
I don't care, dude. The shows go as long as I am enjoying it. That's the actual secret. Is that it's technically an hour, but you can tell if I've been having a good time or not if I cut it off.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This was like an actual like I wouldn't say like a crisis of whatever, but like I was writing about the Montreal smoked meat sandwich. And so this is like it's a very close cousin of pastrami, but it is like its own tradition. It's French. It's like French Canadian Jewish, right? And there's this Canadian author, Mordecai Richler. He writes these beautiful novels about like the Jewish Canadian experience. And like in one of them, like the main character, like it opens with the main character leaving a smoked meat sandwich and a bottle of whiskey on his father's grave. So it's like this is very central to like Montreal Jewish identity. And I've never had a Montreal smoked meat sandwich. I just like have never been there at the right time.
I want to go to Montreal and eat their bagels, man. Like,
yeah, I mean,
just so different.
You can do that because those are vegetarian.
Yes, exactly. And I love a bagel. So
I have had Montreal bagels. They are very different. They're like more heavily boiled. They're delicious in their own way. But like, I was like, I wound up like writing this whole piece of just like, here's every literary reference I can run down about like how amazing smoked meat sandwiches are. Someday I will go to Montreal and I will like fulfill my dream.
It's so cool. Oh, God.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love it because I like the thing I read for comfort is food books and books that are about food and histories of food and the culture of food. And like people are like, oh, you must have, I've got like thousands of fantasy novels. I've read them all. That's not the point. The point is like my favorite comfort food book of all time is Heat by Bill Buford, where he goes and embeds himself in the kitchen of Mario Batali and then goes to Tuscany to learn how to become a Tuscan butcher and all these things. And it's like, why are you reading this book about a guy who's cutting meat up? And I'm like, because he's a New Yorker editor who knows how to write really, really well. And so reading your stuff, which is like brand new articles about food that I haven't read 10,000 times, fills me with unbelievable amounts of joy.
Well, if you want like a really, really good food book, this was a very big inspiration for me. An Alphabet for Gourmets by MFK Fisher is just a beautiful book, and she's such an amazing writer. Like
I've read a lot of her articles and stuff because she's one of the
they're just amazing. And
yeah,
and A is for Dining Alone is like just a gorgeous article. And she writes about like peas, and you're just like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever read.
MK Fisher is one of the greatest American writers of all time, and just like
because she was a woman writing about food.
Yeah, like one of the mothers of food criticism in America. Is just like absolute. I mean, I don't know. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of that. Yeah, dude.
So I think I might want to close out with a poem, because I think a theme of our conversation has just been like, how do we kind of live in this world, and maybe like focusing on things that bring us joy. So there's a really lovely poem by Denise Levertov that I just came across this week, that I think she talks about like focusing on plants and plant life to like alleviate existential terror. But I think it's all in the same vein, whether it's like fantasy or food or whatever we're looking at to keep us sane through this time. So I'll read it and we can close out. So it's called Concurrence by Denise Levertov. Each day's terror, almost a form of boredom. Madmen at the wheel and stepping on the gas, and the brakes no good. And each day one, sometimes two morning glories, faultless, blue sometimes flecked with magenta, each lit from within with the first sunlight. Damn. And that was, it just really hit me this week. It's just like, yes.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, gardening is my other secret passion. I just don't ever talk about that because that one's for me.
Oh, well, it's lovely, and morning glories are easy to grow.
Yeah,
I had a garden, had to move to a place without a yard, and I miss it a lot.
Oh, dude, it is.
I was a terrible gardener. It was fun. I got to kill a wide variety of plants.
Oh man, this is such a cool conversation. I've been wanting to talk to you forever, and just trying to find an excuse that I can make some kind of way. I'm like, what can I do? And I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I'm just going to ask you straight up, and I'm honored and grateful that you did. Thank you so much for coming on today. And I know it's super late for you, and I really, really genuinely appreciate it.
No problem. I'm a night owl anyway.
It helps a lot. If folks wanted to find you or your books or your works or whatever, where could they go?
So I'm swordsjew.bsky.social on Blue Sky. My books are Culture Warlords and Wild Faith. They're the print is under my dead name, Tal Lavin, but the audiobooks have been updated. They're Tal. So if you want to check those out, although my voice has changed a lot since I read them. I mean, my sandwich book is not out till 2027.
But your sandwich blog exists. Where is that?
Yeah, my newsletter it's on Button Down. If you just search The Sword and the Sandwich, it should come.
Which is also a sick name, by the way. Like, that's such a cool name.
Well, I was like, I'm going to be blogging sandwiches. I own a bunch of swords. I don't know. It seemed...
It works.
It was like the sword was going to be my political coverage, and the sandwich was sandwiches. Now it's just a sandwich and minimal sword, but whatever. Maybe a sword-shaped toothpick.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm like, the sword that goes near Monte Cristo, right? Like, it's fine.
Yeah, like whenever I mention colonialism, it's like a little bit of a sword. Anyway, it was lovely to chat with you. Like, take care of yourself, and everyone listening, take care of yourself. Look for the morning glories, and we got this.
Yeah, we got this, dude. And as always, my friends, you can find me on Blue Sky at Shivam Bhatt. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at YouTube every Tuesday. Thanks to my editor, Dan. You can also hear me on Shivam Wheeler Love Magic or the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast, because I love the sound of my own voice. And remember, my friend, it's not magic without the gathering, and we'll see you